Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to take a trip over to the big farm, which is actually my parents' farm, where they grow a lot of fruit: apples, peaches, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, grapes, muscadines. All of the fruit, they are growing it at their place. And so we're going to showcase a lot of the blackberries, the grapes, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And we're also going to talk about irrigation. So we've been talking about water catchment, how you can do that off of your roof. Well, at the big farm, they're actually using an irrigation system that I think you're going to be surprised at not only how effective it is at working, but how cheap it is to install. All right, Dad, so tell us a little bit about all of the fruit that you have growing right over here in your orchard.
Well, down here on this end, we have two varieties of blueberries. We have three varieties of blackberries. We have two different varieties of grapes. We have three different varieties of muscadines, and they're all scattered over a couple acres down here in front of the house.
All right. So how many plants? You said you have three varieties of blackberries. If you had to guess how many blackberry plants you have, what would you say?
Oh, we've got hundreds, 500 probably, which is really our main crop this time of year. We have more demand for that. It's amazing how far people will drive for a gallon of blackberries, but they will if they're good, and we have some good berries.
Would you say that there is much of a difference between the blackberries that you grow and the blackberries that grow along the side of the road or in the woods?
Oh, there's really no comparison. Wild berries are real small, and most of them are pretty hard. The majority of our berries are Apache, and they're usually the size of your thumb. When you get a good plant, we've got a lot of good plants that put on good fruit, and if they're picked at the right time, the key with cultivated berries, or as people call them, tame berries, or is picking them at the right time. Most people don't pick them when they're really ripe. They turn dark and they think, okay, they're sweet, we're going to pick them. You have to give them a couple of days after they turn dark, because you don't want to pick a shiny berry. You want a dull looking berry. That's when the sugar content's the highest. That's when they're the sweetest.
As far as your berries that you're growing out here, when are they becoming ready to harvest? Or do they all happen at the same time? Or is it spread out over a long season?
Ours is spread out a little bit. A lot of what your berries are going to do is God programmed their DNA. They're going to be what they're going to be. However, most of our blackberries have already come and gone. We start early. Early June, we're getting berries. And then right after the blackberries start, that's usually after the strawberries have finished, then the blueberries come on. Grapes, we're just another week or so away from table grapes being ready. The muscadines won't be until late September or October.
Obviously, pest pressure is serious with any crop that you're growing, but what have you found is the absolute enemy of grapes and blackberries and blueberries?
Well, there's a couple things there. As far as pests go, most people consider bugs as the number one pest, and that's true. Japanese beetles are a problem, and what we call June bugs are a problem. But we've knocked the edge off of that. You can treat the ground to kill the grubs, and we've been doing that for the past couple years. You can put products out like milky spore, and that takes care of a lot of the grubs. It's not going to get every one of them, but it's going to get a lot, because we've got about 13 acres here. We can't do every square inch of it, and we can't do our neighbor's property either. So they're going to have some, but we've dramatically reduced the population of them. But the thing is that you've got to be careful. One of the things you've got to be careful of with high humidity like we have here in this part of the state is fungus and bacteria and things like that. So, which leads up to the question a lot of people ask about, well, what kind of irrigation do you use? And we prefer drip irrigation. We don't do broadcast irrigation. You can do broadcast irrigation on grass and things like that, and that's fine. But if you're doing a crop, berries, or even in a garden, you don't want your leaves or your plants wet, because that's where your fungus is going to grow. And that has been a bigger pest in the past couple of years than even the bugs have been for us. We lost an entire strawberry crop with a fungal infection last year. So it can just, one day they look good, they look fine, they're bloomed, and you're anxious about, we're going to be picking next week, and then all of a sudden your plants start falling out because of fungus.
So not only does every plant need a good drink of water, but it's important that you water them the correct way.
Exactly.
All right, so since we're talking about irrigation, why don't you show us the type of irrigation system that you're using to water your blackberries and your grapes?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we use a drip irrigation. We use this plastic trunk line here. This is your main line that runs along the row of plants. And you use an emitter like this. They're color coded, and this is 1 gallon per hour, and you can get half a gallon or more or less, whatever you want. You got this little device right here. They're pretty easy to work. While this is already in place for your plants, that isn't going to work. I want to cut that out. You take this little device here, make your hole, and your emitter just snaps in, so that when your water comes through, it's just going to allow how much water, how much the emitter is set for, then that's how much water it'll put out in an hour. Normally what I do is I come up about 14 or 15 inches off the ground where I can get a weed eater up underneath it. I know a lot of people, they do weed killer herbicide around their plants so they don't have to weed eat and grow and all that. I don't use any herbicide around any of our food products, and we don't use any kind of pesticide spray on it either, which makes it a little more work, but nonetheless, I'm old school about that. If it kills the grass, it's on above the ground, that poison is soaking into the ground, and I don't do it. So I raised it up off the ground so I can weed eat up underneath it, and usually use like a number 12 galvanized wire, aluminized wire, whatever, anchor it to the post. And you got these little things here, and these are called vine curls from the supplier that I get them from. And you can see as they just wrap around the line, and you've got your wire that you're going to hook it to. I can show you one here up here that I've already put in, and it holds it up off the ground, and then your emitter can drop the water and you put it right on the plant. And depending on the plant, some of our muscadines, they're pretty established, and they're pretty large plants, so we've got more than one, may have a couple down the line, because the root system is going to spread out.
Now, how do you attach your water hose to that line?
Well, you can attach it a couple different ways. These friction fittings here, they're pretty reasonable, maybe $1.50, something like that. And they just press in like this, and then you tighten this back collar up on it, and it's tight, it's there. So if you've just got like a backyard garden or something small, and some of ours are still hooked up, we're running off of a well to a hose, we're in the process of hooking it up. We've got an irrigation pump. It goes off the pond down here on a lot of our stuff. We just haven't got it across the road yet down to this side, but we're working on that this fall. So you can plumb it in directly to this, but at the end, then you've got an end, and the end will come off so that in the wintertime you can remove the cap and blow the air out, so you don't have to worry about it freezing and causing a problem. And again, same way, you've got to close the end up, of course, to have pressure. You don't want all your water running out the end when you turn it on. So
what would you say to folks who say that they can't afford an irrigation system? Well,
it's very worthwhile if you don't mind carrying water, if you don't have but just a few plants and you can carry water every couple of days to put on it, that's fine. But this is a good investment. I mean, this is going to last for years. Most of this material is very UV resistant. I've recently bought 1,000 feet of tubing and all these emitters and connectors, and somewhere between $400 and $500. But now it's going to do an acre and a half area down here that we've got planted.
So you can irrigate up to 1,000 feet for under $500. So
Yes,
it's less than 50 cents a foot.
Yes, yes,
Excellent.
yes.
All right, so we're going to walk through here and actually show you what it looks like to install emitters on tubing that has already been installed. So let's see what that looks like.
Well, I'm going to put an emitter on this plant right here. You take this punch right here, and you take and you make you a hole in your line. You take your emitter, you can put either side in. It'll work either way. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And you hear it snap in right there, and that's good to go. It'll drip right on that little plant.
Is that all there is to it?
That's all there is to it.
Are there any seals that go on that?
Nope. It seals itself, so it's good to go. I've used these for several years. I haven't had a failure yet. So the only thing is, when you say if you have a plant to die, or you move plants or whatever, and you don't have a plant where the emitter used to be, you can take a large sheet metal screw and screw into the hole where it was, and it'll plug it up, and you don't have to change your line.
Good to know.
Well, and these vine curls I was telling you about, you see this galvanized wire that I have here. Of course, I'm using cattle panels on these blackberries right here. But these vine curls, they just wrap around and hold your tubing in place up off the ground. Makes it look nice and neat. So there's that right there. Does a good job. And these are, like I said, these emitters here are 1 gallon per hour. Now I've got this, like I mentioned a moment ago, this side over here, we don't have it hooked up to the pond irrigation. This is coming off of a well. So I've got a splitter here on the end of the hose. I can do 2 rows. These are 100-foot rows here, and I can do 2 at a time. With this splitter that I've got here, now I've got it turned off. Just doing this one in that row up there.
So show us exactly how this is installed. It looks like you've got your tubing hung on a wire.
Yep. This wire is about 15-16 inches up off the ground, like I was mentioning a while ago. Now this is in conjunction with, like I said, the cattle panel here, which is what I use for the blackberries. I've found it's just the best trellis I've been able to come up with, and I've experimented with several over the years. Everybody likes what they like, but this works good with the top berries bushes that we have. Like I said, most of our bushes are Apache, and you can see, we'll look in a little bit, some of the more established bushes, how we can tie them up to the panels, and it just makes picking a whole lot easier. this row of blackberries here were in the same stage as these are last year. We harvested from this row of plants this year and got a good harvest. As you can see, these canes are going to be trimmed out here in another few weeks. They're dying off. The growth that's putting on now is what we'll harvest off of next year. These plants were planted back in December of last year, so this coming spring, we'll get a good harvest off it. We put an additional 600 feet of blackberries in right here this past winter, so next spring they'll be coming online, so to speak, and we'll be getting a harvest off of them. But you can see the difference in the growth between the same kind of plant. Both of these are Apaches. They're thornless variety of blackberries. A good, sweet, large berry, and they look good, taste good, and they sell good.
How old are these blackberries here that we're looking at in the bottom?
These are 3-year-old berries down there, the first row. The couple different kinds in there that we were just doing some experimenting with to see what we liked the most. And that row right there, they're thorny berries, and they kind of mixed results. They're okay, but I still go back to the Apache. The Triple Crown is another excellent berry, very good. We've got another variety of berry that's a thorny variety. It's called Black Butte. Makes a huge berry. Now, the only thing about Black Butte that I have found, and I haven't been able to find a cure for it, is they have a condition that can come on called double blossom, and they'll put a real pretty blossom on. You think, oh, we're going to have a really good crop of fruit, and that blossom will fall off, and then they'll put another blossom right on. Instead of bearing fruit, it has another blossom. Don't know why. I don't know if there's any cure for it. I haven't been able to find one, and nobody's been able to tell me about that yet. So still doing a little head scratching on that.
What kind of grapes are these right here?
Sour.
Sour.
They've got a little bit ways to go. They're getting there. They're starting to get a little soft. These are called Catawba grapes. These are the white grapes, or table grapes that we have. And we've got several of these.
They're absolutely loaded.
Yeah, pretty good. This little vine here does a good job. I'm rooting another plant down here. I got an offshoot coming up the main trunk, and get you a pot, put some dirt in it, and then run your new growth, your shoot, through the pot, and you can see right here on these little nodules right here, you'll get some root growth. So in a couple weeks, I'll snip this off. I'll probably wait till the fall, probably a couple of months, to be honest. I've got this stone on it to hold the plant down in there. So I've propagated another plant here. For all intent and purposes, it'll be a clone of this plant right here. And it produces, as you can see, it's just hanging full of fruit. It produces real good. This is a good producing vine. But I'll have another plant that I can plant this fall. I've got a couple places down there that I need to put one. I had a few to die. But this is almost a foolproof way to propagate on this particular kind of grape anyway. And I've done that with muscadines as well too. So both sides of these are Catawba grapes. When I bought them, they were actually sold to me to be the exact same thing. They're not. One of them's white and one of them's purple. I guess they were just mislabeled, but they're both good grapes. They make excellent juice, which is what we use them for. We eat a few of them, but mainly we make juice out of them. We like to drink juice.
I'm noticing that we have a line that goes off to the right, and we have a line that goes off to the left. Are all grapevines going to grow in that same way?
Well, a grapevine's going to do what you train it to do. These have got a little bit of age on them, and I should have done a better job of adhering them up to the grow wire, the top wire. But when your plant is young this plant that I propagated over here, when I plant it, I'll come up, I'll let it get the height to the top wire, and then I'll snip the top, and what's going to happen is it'll put 2 shoots out, at least 2. One, and you'll train one to go one way and one to go the other. So our posts are 20 feet apart, and I like to put the plant in the middle. So ideally, if you got 10 feet from the center each way, that way your plant is not overextended as far as being able to supply water and nutrients to the end. So you're going to have usually, you know how it usually goes, there's always an exception to the rule, but usually most of your fruit is going to be closer to the trunk instead of out on the very ends. Now I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, mine's different, probably, but that's how ours have usually worked out to be. So usually 10 feet from the trunk either way is where I like to have our grapevines growing, so 20 feet overall. The only place you're going to get grapes is off new wood.
New wood.
So this was here, this is your main trunk, and this is what was here last year. It will be here next year, but as you can see, right here, I trimmed it right here. This new shoot grew out, and that's where your fruit's hanging. You won't get any fruit off of old wood. It's just like it says in the Bible. You got to prune the vine, and you're going to get fruit on the new growth. Just like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's kind of the same mindset, same theory.
Gotcha.
These are the Catawba grapes that I was telling you about that were sold to me as the same variety as the white ones, but as you can see, they're starting to turn purple. And we make a really pretty red juice out of that. Matter of fact, we use that at our church for communion. Yeah, everybody likes it. Makes a good job. About your grapes, you've got to be careful, particularly like I told you, I don't spray any weed killer underneath our plants, so it requires mowing and weed eating and whatnot. But along this time of year, as you can see how heavy the growth is, because in the spring all this will be cut back. There won't be anything there except for the trunk line, and all this new growth will come on, and in a matter of a couple of months, these new tendrils here, they're going to be hanging down on the ground, and you're not going to be able to mow. It's okay to come in and clip a little bit off the ends of these in the summertime so you can mow. Now you don't want to get real aggressive, because these leaves are your sugar factory. This is what keeps the plant alive and sweetens up the grapes. You don't want to go overboard with it, but you can trim them back. As you can see, this transitions into muscadines right down here. And they were laying on the ground last week. I mean, I had to cut 3 feet off of them. I couldn't get the mower in here. I couldn't get in here to weed eat or anything else. So you can trim back a little bit in the summer. You got to be careful, particularly if you're not irrigating, because you don't want to put your plants in the shop. But these are getting watered well all throughout the week, and even though it's in the 90s, upper 90s right now, they can survive fine because they're being watered well, and I didn't over trim. Now these are muscadines. These are Carlos Bronze muscadines right here, and these are a month to 6 weeks behind the grapes that we were looking at a moment ago. These won't be ready until September, early October, somewhere along there. They're going to double in size between now and then, and the appearance is going to change dramatically. You can see the difference in the leaves here. Here's where 2 of them kind of run together. This is the muscadine here, and this is the table grape, the Catawba. This is the purple Catawba grape here. But they're grapes, but they're different.
Now I'm noticing that on this larger grapevine, you actually have 2 emitters for irrigation.
I do on this larger plant. You can tell by the diameter of this plant, it's starting to get a few years on it. It's still a good producing plant. It's not old by any means, but nonetheless, muscadines need water. All grapes need water, but as hard as it is, they go through. They're going to lose a lot of water through evaporation out through the leaves and through the ground as well too. So I've got 2 emitters on these, And you could probably next year I might even add a third and fourth one down the line, because the bigger the plant gets, the more their roots are going to spread out, and you don't want to starve them for water. But there's another plant 20 feet away, and there's water coming out up there too. So right now it's okay, but another year or so I'll probably have to add another emitter on each side of it. So this is an older plant, the Black Butte, and even though it's late in the year, you can see it's still putting a few berries on. They're not really great, but they'll have a handful left here and there. But what I was mentioning a while ago called double blossom, and see, this should have been fruit, but this was the second blossom that it put on. There's just nothing there. There's no fruit. It's just a little hard nodule. So it bloomed twice, and probably on this particular plant, the fruit production was probably half of what it should have been. So this plant is probably going to be replaced. I know there are several in here that have kind of aged out, and because of various issues, I'm going to replace some of these this fall. Now this is an excellent plant here. This is an Apache, and we get a really good crop off of this plant in particular, but this particular variety. Now you can see the difference between the new growth that's come out here just in the past few months, and this was the growth from last year. So these are prima canes that are coming out, and that's what we'll get our fruit off of next year. These are the canes that we picked from this year. So these are dying, and here in a few weeks I'll come in and I'll clip all this old growth out, and we'll burn it. We don't leave it laying around because we don't want any kind of transfer of fungus or any kind of disease, or it could be airborne. So we don't leave stuff like that laying around. We get rid of it, get it off the property, burn it, get rid of it, something. So next year, this growth right here, all these canes will be replaced with new growth. Here's another new growth right here coming up. So all these that have dark wood and kind of hard, you see how green and pliable and soft this is. This is new growth, this is old growth. So all this it's done. I'm not going to do anything else. It's in the process of dying. So, and this and these and all these. Here's another one, really large cane right there. That's going to be for next year. So here in a couple of weeks, when I prune all this out, it'll look completely different. And we're going to change our trellis system this fall. This is some of the original stuff we had 10 years ago. And trying to move away from that. We've only got 4 rows of this left. It was a lot of work and a lot of disappointment because it just did not work out like we hoped it would. But we're going to put cattle panels up here like we've got everywhere else, and we think we can make that work and kind of integrate it in and include this in with the rest of our crop.
Tell me how you've got these metal lines secured.
Well, this is called a wire vise. I got these on Amazon. Not terribly expensive, but man, they are awesome. You drill you a hole, and this slides into the hole. Your wire goes through the other side. And it's one way. You can pull it all the way through this way, but it will not pull back. You can put a lot of tension on it. I've not broken one yet. We put a lot of tension on it. Now these, we'll cut these out. Like I said, we're going to replace these with cattle panels, but I'm still going to need a top wire and a bottom wire, so I'll still be reusing these, and we'll reuse the wire as well. I like to repurpose everything that we can. But I've got one of these I'll show you. And like I said, I don't remember the name of the company we got them from, but they're available on Amazon, and they're pretty reasonable, but they work excellent. We've been fighting the crows for the blueberries. This is the last of the blueberries. As you can see, we had to put netting over it because of the crows have discovered our blueberries, and they figured out they like them. So there's your couple.
Everybody likes blueberries.
Everybody likes blueberries. These are really good. I got these from our former youth pastor's dad. So I asked him, I said, Mr. Moore, what kind of plants are these? He said, they're blueberry. I said, but what particular kind? He said, I don't know. He's a good guy.
They're the kind that grow blueberries.
Yep. And there's umpteen varieties of blueberries. These are kind of winding down. We've sold quite a few blueberries and blackberries this year. We had a pretty good crop.
Okay, so I've been showcasing the pond for a reason, because this is kind of the irrigation hub. We're going to take a lot of water out of this pond and use it to irrigate peach trees and apple trees and anything else that we want to. So tell us about what we're looking at right here.
Well, this is we just put this pump in about a week ago. I made a little cover over the top to keep it kind of sheltered from the weather. This is a 2 horsepower pump with an inch and a quarter intake. So it can pump a lot of water, and we're going to be pumping this across the road and up the hill. Later on this fall, we're going to hook it up again to some drip irrigation for our fruit trees. We've got apple trees on the backside and peach trees just over above the blackberries. So that's the long-term plan. Hopefully by next year this time we'll have all that in place.
So I don't know exactly what the elevation difference is, but everywhere around here is uphill.
Yeah, both ways.
So yeah, both ways. So the apple trees are easily about 25 to 30 feet above us, maybe more than that. Is this pump going to have any trouble at all pumping water that far and that high?
I've talked to 2 different people about this particular pump, and they recommended this was the pump we replaced our old one with. The old one was destroyed last year when Hurricane Helene came through. Even though we missed the front end of it, the water was so high it was mounted down below on the old dock that it was submerged and it ruined the pump. So I've raised the pump up about 4 feet to keep it out of hopefully any kind of future flood water that we may have. But I've been assured that this will take care, as long as you don't try to do too many zones at one time, these should be able to handle whatever we want to do.
Excellent. So you've heard us talk about apple trees and peach trees quite a bit over the past year, and that will be coming up in another video, but I'm going to give you kind of a sneak peek. We're going to take you to the top of the hill and show you our peach trees and our apple trees. And what we have here are 60 red skin peach trees. Here we have 2 rows of gala apples, and this row is 600 feet long. More galas. And then this one right here is going to be Honeycrisp. We have 2 rows of it, 600 feet long. And then we've got 2 rows down here of Macintosh, and that row is 600 feet long as well. And if I remember correctly, I believe we have 136 apple trees, and we have 60 peach trees. I believe my math is correct. We'll tell you more about the apples and the peach trees in an upcoming episode.